What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be taking a look at the new mid-tower case from Lian-Li, the PC-O11 Dynamic. So this new case from Lian-Li, apparently DeBauer had some design influences on it, and it's a really interesting case. It's not your typical mid-tower by any means. The first thing I want to talk about is the paneling on the case. So if we look at the paneling here on the very top, it's held in by two captive thumb screws on the back. Just slide it back, and this top panel comes off. So with that top panel off, that frees up the side panel, which just slides up. As you can see, it has these brackets that just have a little notch that sticks out, and these little grooves in the feet, and it essentially just sits in the case, kind of just letting gravity do the work, which is really nice. It's really easy to pop these panels in and out. Just grab the side here and lift up. So that's really nice. That's a feature I like. There's no dust filter on the bottom. However, we do have a magnetic strip filter on the top. And for our third fan area here on the side, behind this back panel, which also just lifts up and off, the dust filter is right there. Magnetic also, just the same as the top. So this case has some interesting new features, such as this side radiator spot over here. The original only had top and bottom for intake and exhaust, so this aesthetic side-mounted third radiator option is nice. This case was somewhat designed for water cooling. They say it's designed for water cooling, but unfortunately I ran into several issues facing putting a custom water loop in this. So here we can see the rear of the case. You can see how I have my fans in push-pull. It fits in there with just enough clearance. So that works out nice. That was kind of a cool design. I enjoy that. And then we have this captive thumb screw plate where you can mount SSDs to that. It kind of also holds all the cables in there. So when you're just wrapping up your cable management and you want it all to fit in there snug, you just put that plate back in, and when you screw it in, it kind of snugs all the cables up together. So it's really not too hard to get this back panel back on. You're not fighting all the resistance from the cables you have bunched up back there. So that's nice. That makes cable management a little bit easier. The power supply is meant to be mounted on its side with the fan facing that way, so we can draw in air from the outside and not recycling the hot air inside the case. So that's nice. It's filtered as well, so you don't have to worry about getting dust in your power supply. This is also the drive cage right here, which supports 3.5 inch drives, and I believe 2.5 inch drives are also supported for the drive sleds. And it is modular, so you can pull it out and add a second power supply for overclocking if you want. I will get into that in just a minute. Okay, so to remove this back plate for the SSD, we have two thumb screws at the top. They are not captive, so don't just fling them out super fast because you'll probably lose them. So we got those out, and then there's one little guy here at the bottom holding all this in. So I'm pulling this out so we can kind of take a better look at the cable management basement, if you will. So I do have two 2.5 inch SSDs mounted back there. And this is kind of the room that you get to work around right here. I don't know if you can really see it too well. My drive's still plugged in. So here is the cable management area you get to work with. Just this little indent in here. So if you have fan controllers or if you have cable extensions like I do, it makes your cable management job a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. If you don't have a radiator back here, that will free up a considerable amount of room. But I mean, if you're buying this case, why would you not have the radiator there? Okay, so this case, like I said, was designed for water cooling and overclocking. Well, in my opinion, there were a lot of oversights. Enough for this to be a deal breaker for me trying to build a water loop. as it sits with the air-cooled graphics card and the 360mm AAO, no issues. It's a wonderful case the way it sits. But my intentions with water cooling and potentially SLI down the road, it's just not gonna work. So I think the absolute #1 oversight in this case, which a lot of people complain about, is the width and the clearance of that glass side panel. So this case barely fits my For the Win 3 card, which is not wide at all. The glass panel will slide down and it presses up against the power input cables on this card. Now originally when I had my MSI 1080, it was the Gaming X model, the cables actually pushed against the glass so hard that the weak adhesive holding on those mounting strips onto the side of the glass actually caused that to separate. So I had to pull both of those mounting strips off of the glass, had to clean all of the adhesive off of both the mounting strips and the side panel, and I had to put new adhesive on there. And then when I put this back on and used my For the Win card, my 1080 Ti, it actually started to separate again. So now that the mounting strips are RTV'd onto the glass, they're not going anywhere. They can handle that tiny bit of pushback, but the original adhesive that Lian-Li used is incredibly weak. So make sure whatever graphics card you use has plenty of clearance. Get a small card, get something you know will fit. Or like me, get the setup you want and then just don't get this case. Just don't. And with water blocks especially, they stick out further than the power input usually. There's just no chance of water cooling this card and being able to use the side panel. And I think if you're paying the $160 premium for this case, you shouldn't have to have a compromise that big. So huge oversight. This case is just too small for what it's advertised to do. Another huge oversight that drove me absolutely insane, the USB 3 header at the bottom. With the cutout, they are too close to the motherboard, so it has to come out from the side and sweep up to plug into that USB header. Now, in doing that, you are not able to fit fans down there or a radiator. So, you either have to go without front USB 3.0 inputs on the case, or you have to do what I did and get a right angle connector, which is still a nightmare to deal with. It still doesn't go in there well, just because the motherboard is pulled down so far. There's no clearance for these cutouts, so they needed to either mount the motherboard differently, make the case an inch taller, I don't know what, but they definitely should have thought this out a little more thoroughly. And the fact that you can't fit a proper water block in here, and the fact that you have to fight to get radiators in this, and then they have the nerve to advertise 2 power supplies for overclocking. What kind of sense does that make if you have to almost mod the case just to get stuff to work? I don't understand that. So for me personally, I will be moving on from this case. I will be getting something a little bit bigger, something that's easier to work in, and something that works as advertised, because I think if water cooling is going to be a big gimmick, and airflow and overclocking, then you should have designed the case better. It should be a little bit bigger. You shouldn't have graphics card compatibility problems. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, like I said, if you're not using a huge graphics card and just using an all-in-one cooler or something like that, that's fine. That works really well in this case. Actually, it's really aesthetic. It's nice. It has glass panels, and it is a nice case. And for using it for those purposes, it works well. But all of these pipe dreams of water cooling and overclocking, don't buy into it, because it's not going to work well. So thank you for watching, and I appreciate the views. Like if you like the video, share it, and stay tuned for next time.